It's Thursday, the 2nd of October, 2025, and if we've learned anything this week, it's that it's Sacha Feinberg-Mngomezulu's world, and we're just living in it. Let's start the show. You're watching Bit of an Animal, the South African Rugby Union podcast here on the Global Gainlines YouTube channel. I'm joined by two of my three colleagues this evening. Jean is back, and Lisa B, you were in absentia last week. Tell us, what was the Kruger National Park like?
Oh, it was lovely. Wonderful place to go. Saw some crazy things. Springboks chasing down pumas. Didn't even know there were pumas. It was really fun.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. We're basically a South African tourist podcast at this stage. First topic of the week, we go to the Rugby Championship. South Africa in a back and forth game defeating Argentina. Jean, big thoughts on this game besides the fact that our fly-off really stood out.
Yeah, I think misnomer that's out there for me is a lot of people saying we struggled in the first half. I don't think we struggled. I think there was parity. There was real parity in terms of defense and attack on both sides. Both teams really playing with everything they've got. And that's what makes test rugby exciting is if you don't have a clear-cut winner at halftime or the game is tight. That for me that's the greatest type of test rugby is where you're sitting on the edge of your seat, and you're sort of wondering about what's the outcome going to be. Where are we going? How's the second half going to go? Are we going to be able to win them? So yeah, I at one point I was like, holy crap, Argentina's putting us to the sword here. So this raises two questions. If we're playing fantastically, how good is Argentina? And secondly, how bad is New Zealand that Argentina is putting us to the sword? But yeah, I think you know the big statements came right before halftime. We lost Malcolm Marx, um, and prior to that, with the disallowed try as well. The boys just said, "Well, we'll do it again. You want to take the try away for an infringement? No problem. We'll do it again." And then we lost Marks. They got a penalty try, and big kudos to Sasha for walking up to the ref and saying, "Listen, you gave a penalty try, so we didn't kick. So there's 3 seconds left on the clock. So I get a restart." And I think that's like a prime example of seeing an opportunity there, and very happy it paid off. Some other things didn't pay off. Looks at Cheslin Colby sideways. Um, but yeah, I think what a fantastic match. Like especially up to halftime, just the tightness of it, and then gaining that momentum and running with it. You know, putting Argentina to the sword. Um, yeah, statement victory from us.
Lisa B, this is the first time in the Rugby Championship that South Africa the Springboks have won back-to-back games. We started the season with a loss to Australia, then we revenged it. Then we went to New Zealand for a much anticipated two-match series in New Zealand. We lost at Eden Park, attempting to be the first team to win in Eden Park in a very long time. Then we avenged it in Wellington. Um, are you pleased with the fact that we've actually now won a game in Wellington and then flown all the way back to South Africa, back in Durban, bit of a week break, and won a back-to-back game?
Yeah, I think it really shows that we can get to that place of being consistent, which is kind of what I think Rassi's mission is in this 4-year cycle between World Cups, to actually get to a place where we can travel, we can get back-to-back wins. Last year we definitely saw that, but of course now this year, bringing in new players and also really implementing Tony Ball in a way that we didn't last year. I think it was good for the players' confidence. I think it's giving the boost into the last round is very important. Um, And yeah, it's just for me, last week's game was very much about energy and in a way like the energy equation. Um, and what really clicked in my mind is how we used to push teams physically by tackling them into the ground and being in their faces with the rush defense, kind of giving a very hard wall against for teams to kind of break themselves against us. And once we broken them down, we would, you know, run all over them. What we're doing now is having a bit of a softer line and managing our energy to to just in a way frustrate and isolate players coming towards us, um, or other teams attack, and and this is allowing us more time to kind of sit a little bit better and to get more into a counter attack, which has been very interesting to watch. Also, I don't know. Am I the only one seeing some similarities here with like Griquas and Boerland and also this week's Stormers? Just that kind of different way of managing, especially tackling and defense and the breakdown. Is that just me?
John, you want to come in there?
Yeah, no, not really. I think Tony Ball very much, if we look at the Stormers and Cape in general, very flowing game, very passing game, all about space, manipulating space and players in space. Up here where we are, the Bulls, space is a place where you put your head or your hips. So, you know, we tend to see space as something that you close down in a scrum. But yeah, no, definitely, I think there's a lot of similarity, and I mean, we discussed it in the first episode. There's going to be this natural swing back towards attacking rugby, flowing rugby, running rugby, and it's going to peak at some point, and then we'll see the swing back to defensive rugby. But yeah, definitely a great era for South Africa to be on the precipice of leading it, and seeing it at the Stormers, seeing it at Griquas, um, Cavaliers to some extent, and um, you wouldn't believe it, but even the Vodacom Blue Bulls seem to have discovered that they can pass a ball and not take contact, which is amazing. So yeah, it's definitely a great time to be a South African fan as Rassie leads us into this era of attacking rugby.
You see, with rugby, we've seen numerous evolutions, things such as like the rush defense and different sort of attacking models, pods, and so on and so forth. What seems to be a consistency is that you do majority of the time, especially at the high level test rugby, and we've seen it in the URC as well. You do need to earn the right to throw the ball around at the back. If your forwards aren't really fronting, you might not have the space to do that, even if your backline is really good. We've seen this a lot with the Sharks, that our forwards might be misfiring, either for numerous reasons. Maybe our more seasoned veterans are unavailable to us through being at the with the Springboks and the Rugby Championship, or a raft of injuries that we're experiencing now. And the players that are deputizing aren't necessarily bad players. They're just maybe not at that level yet, or maybe they're a bit old and their physical prime is past them. But they're at least trying that type of thing. So and whichever camp they might be in, they might just be put into an unideal situation. So I quite enjoy the fact that the rugby keeps evolving, and we've seen this even at the Women's Rugby World Cup. Teams are now looking at what Canada is doing. The Canada women team who made the final, and unfortunately, lost to England. Spoiler alert. Um, People looking at the speed at which they're moving the ball at the ruck and the accuracy and the dynamics as it relates to that. And I know for certain that men's teams are looking at that and trying to get. You also need the players to execute, obviously, but trying to get as much as they can from that, because a lot of rugby is three-dimensional, or shall I say five-dimensional chess, of like decision making. What I also find quite interesting is that 2 decades ago, when I was 5, I was reading the report. The big discussions were decision making at fly off. But rugby has evolved to such an extent that it's not just the fly off making decisions anymore. Or it used to just be the fly off the a bit of the scrum off and maybe the fullback. Now it's numerous players across the field. Your general players in the back line, scrum off, fly off, inside center, and fullback. But even decision making is vital. You can't just be bigger than the other guy and run them over and or do basic moves. So yeah, that's my sort of technical analysis. Glad to have gotten the win. Hopefully next week we actually defeat Argentina in the Argentinian city of London, Twickenham. And the team has already flown over. Let's look ahead at the team that Rassie has announced. Jean, your thoughts on the team going into this weekend?
You know that is it Goofy the dog meme that says "I'll do it again"? This just strikes me as Rassie going, "I'll do it again. I'll do it again." Yeah, look, obviously minimum changes. Glad to see the Ox back. But yeah, we're seeing some continuity, which is something that, I think they maybe were saving for later in the year. Um, and then they decided, why not push the continuity now? And end of the year, when you're playing 5 different teams with 5 different styles and 5 different countries, then you can test and mix and match combinations as much as you want. Um, because up until Saturday night, half past 7, was very much in the balance in terms of the rugby championship. So I think once we won that and we realized there's a now one hand on the trophy. If we started slipping into second or third, it would have been, let's go with experimentation. Now we've got one hand on the trophy, and it's very much like, let's get the trophy for the first time ever, as you said earlier. Also very excited to see Bongi Manambi back. And then Jesse Kriel on the bench, always exciting. Um, yeah, and if Eben Etzebeth is looking for a plug for his book, which got published today, send us a copy and we'll plug it here as much as you want. Like
Yeah.
one copy, we'll share it between us, and then each time one of us finishes it, we'll plug it. Just putting that out there.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna DM his PR team and then get us all copies of the book. Lisa B, any pressing thoughts on the team that we've selected for Argentina and Twickenham?
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned decision making because and Jean was saying the experimentation. I'm starting to wonder if some of the older guys are maybe not so much that they're old or slow or not good players anymore, but to make that switch in decision making, whether some of them are actually at this stage in life, I want to say, able to do that. So I'm very interested to see Bongi back. I love the guy. I don't know if he. Oh, we'll see how he goes. But my point being that I think Rassi might have been rushed a little bit into bringing the new guys in. It's obviously paid off, but I actually think he wanted to keep them on a little bit longer and kind of have more of a staggered approach. But I don't think it's a bad thing that he was rushed into it. Obviously, we're seeing it paying off. So yes, Bongi, and also very happy to have Argis Nijmer on the bench as well. I really think that's his best place. Geez, those passes last week were just things of beauty. I love it. Yeah, and what else can we say? It's a great team. It's a winning team, and if they perform like they did last Saturday, we're gonna get our back-to-back Rugby Championship.
Yeah, important to note that the game actually kicks off at 3 o'clock South African time, because generally people assume that it's always going to be 5 o'clock, so don't miss it. Um, Also, in the press conference earlier today or earlier this week, Rassie Erasmus did say that there was discussion about possibly bringing Pollard in for Sacha Feinberg-Mngomezulu. Obviously, the coaching staff weighs a lot of different factors. And one of the factors that was key to Sacha Feinberg-Mngomezulu continuing to start at 10 ahead of Pollard for this game was the short turnaround, the fact that the teams had to travel from Durban to Twickenham, to London for this game. So they wanted a degree of continuity. They landed in England on Monday, and then there's less time to train, so you can't try new things and that type of thing. So yeah, the team obviously weighs a bunch of different factors. Um, the Argentinian team did name their team, but we don't have time to go through it today. We'll just look quickly at Sacha Feinberg-Mngomezulu's Wikipedia page. A couple of key factors. He could have played for England, because of his heritage. Weirdly, I know his dad from a radio station which I don't listen to because it's generally for old people in this. I'm sorry, hot listeners.
They
It
do
used to
cover rugby really well.
do it. I don't listen to it. I should check it out. I do,
The
but
one guy was
yeah,
actually at the Women's Rugby World Cup.
yeah. I
I'll
just
think of
know
his
that
name.
the older people in my sphere listen to it, and they changed the name from P4 to Hot 104.9 years ago. And everybody in my vicinity, in the older people in my family, still called it P4. It took them a decade to shift to the new name. The thing that I know about his dad is that he supports Chelsea, which is like a fraudulent football club in my in my opinion. But I also wasn't aware. I just looked at his Wikipedia today. I wasn't aware that his dad, Barry Feinberg, was a struggle stalwart, somebody who was fighting apartheid back in the day. So that's cool. His mom is obviously quite a sort of accomplished person as well. Um, yeah. What I wanted to look at though before we moved on was the fact that he made his debut for Wales, and we also have to talk about the fact that there was a period of time toward the end of last season's. Remember, Shashfai Ngomezulu didn't actually play in the
Mm.
end of year tour because he played really, really well against New Zealand. However, he had a solid game in the second game against New Zealand as well, but he didn't play that much. Rassie Erasmus was quite upset with him at the end of the Rugby Championship last year. Oh, well, it wasn't actually the end. We still had to play Argentina, um, because Rassie intimated that he actually had a slight injury, but he didn't tell the team because he
Yeah.
wanted to continue to play. And that's a indication of like we enjoy young phenoms breaking through, but we also have to understand that these are young people. We were all in our early 20s at one, all early to mid 20s at one point, and um, you make these types of mistakes in maturity. So we also have to be patient with the development of our players. Sean, you want to come in there on that fact?
Yeah, look, I think the big thing there is just as you said, maturing, right? So, look, I know he had a rough, pretty much after that second New Zealand game, and again he was on fire in those two matches. Um, but yeah, if he after those two matches, um, he had a pretty long injury spell, and because he came back and he was playing for Leinster, not for Leinster, for Stormers, and then got injured, so he was out again, in again, and between him and Mani Lebok and Damian Willemse, they sort of maintained the captainship of the Stormers injury bench. So yeah, I think it's just I think it was a tough end of year season for him last year. Uh, he had good games there. Some wins against Australia, wins against Wales, um, all of those things. But like you said, just maturing because, and it's funny you should mention the disappointment. I was listening to an interview um, of Peter O'Mahony this morning on the way to work,
Mhm.
and they were asking him about Rassie when he was a coach at Munster. And he actually mentioned that Rassie was the coach that brought it in at Munster, that if you don't train on Monday, you're not playing the weekend. And he was like, a lot of the older boys who knew that they're very likely to start wouldn't train on a Monday, claiming, oh, I'm injured, oh, I feel something, or whatever. And he just said, okay, well, if you're not training on Monday, you're not playing on the weekend. Um, so yeah, it's definitely something that I think will come with age and maturing. I mean, when Pollard burst onto the scene in 2015, he was kicking over the top every second time, chasing his own kicks. Even in 2019, half the time he regathered his own kicks. So I think maturity is something yet to come, and we can't blame him for the success he's having. He's obviously a very, very talented person. So yeah, but I think, and I do hope that he's got a steady year from year on out, and that we see solid performances from him.
Yeah, because he had last season or season before last, we shall say, he had a very good season. He had a very consistent URC season. Stormers lost to Glasgow that year as well, and then again the next year. And then he played against Wales, as you said. Didn't get a lot of minutes necessarily, but if I could just get the minutes here. Yeah, he played against Wales, 21 minutes, 7 minutes against Ireland, almost the full game against Ireland in the second game, and then 36 minutes in the game against Portugal. And he started the Rugby Championship quite well. Australia, nearly the full game. About 60% of the game, or 60 minutes in the following Australia game. Then there was a two-match series against New Zealand at home, and this is where he played well in the first game, and in the second game had to come off because due to injury, and then Rassie wasn't overly pleased with the fact that he felt that he probably picked the injury up in the first game against New Zealand, didn't tell anybody because he wanted to continue to play. And Rassie's main issue there was like, if you are 80% because of the structures in South Africa, you are not better than the other guy who's 100%. So he wants people to be open and honest. So then there were two more games against Argentina. Obviously didn't play that, and then he didn't go on the overseas tour. And then, as you said, the season that just passed, he was in and out of the Stormers team. But now we're seeing a bit more consistency from him. So yeah, we wish him the best. It's definitely sort of like every 2 or 3 years or so we get like a big phenom. Or in South Africa, sometimes it's every year. So I mean, Ethan Hooker is basically very similar to that in terms of his performance. And yes, Ethan Hooker, as we said in the pre-part discussion, had maybe one or two, really just for me, one sort of misstep, that type of thing. These are young players. And I've said this on the URC Rewind a lot. I don't want to see South African players or any player from them keep getting thrown away. Just because we build people up too soon, and then we are super eager to tear them down, and that's not very healthy. All right,
Yeah.
we move on to quickly discuss uh, the game that Sean and Tembikosi told people Australia might win, giving people false hope. Um, any thoughts? Were you able to catch this game, Lisa B?
Yes, I did. I
Hmm.
actually caught it on replay.
Hmm.
And I was really excited for Australia. I thought they did such a good job. Um, but then New Zealand kind of sh I don't know. It's like New Zealand are evolving as they are playing. And of course it was at Eden Park, so that just gives them that extra boost. Oh my goodness. Um, it would have been interesting to see this exact game played somewhere else though, and I think Australia might have won if it were somewhere else. Um, New Zealand kind of did the New Zealand thing of the last 20 minutes, which was interesting because they haven't been that good closing out games. So that might be something that they take away from it. But yeah, sorry for Australia once again. The bled eludes them. Um, but yeah, it was a good game. I enjoyed it, and I just want to see more of Max Jorgensen. To be very honest, I think he's a brilliant player, and he had, yeah, very exciting.
For a moment there, I thought you said you wanted to see more of him aesthetically. Just joking. Jean, your thoughts on New Zealand winning at Eden Park?
Yeah, I was actually very excited. I caught the full game unpixelated because I was still at home. Wasn't yet in the bushveld at a wedding. So yeah, look, uh, it was painful to watch Australia lose because I felt they were really, really, really competitive. And if you look at that final score, that they did no worse than we did at Eden Park. So big kudos to to Australia for, just insanely stepping up and going full tilt. I think for a large part, um, Australia lost because they had a good plan, and New Zealand won because they were really clever. James O'Connor can put that ball on a penalty kick on the 5 meter line, and I think New Zealand sort of saw that coming from a mile away. And I think it was three penalty kicks that they just had Air Jordan sort of take a running jump from outside touch, catch the ball, and then your penalty's gone. Now it's play on. And I think that really sucked the wind out of Australia's sails. It's really hard when you get a penalty like that and you lose it completely because you're expecting, right, I'm going to kick the ball, we're going to go to the 5 meter, it's going to be a line out, it's going to be a contest, but we'll have a pretty good contest. And I think it happened twice in like a 15 minute span, and you could sort of just feel the Wallaby momentum ebbing away. And I think that's where mentally the Wallabies didn't know, how do we go now? How do we, because Channel One wasn't rewarding, just doing punch up rugby. But yeah, painful to watch. Despite my very very bold prediction. Um, but I will say this: if the Wallabies win the Blade next year, um, then I fear the World Cup might be theirs.
Interesting. Yeah, I think having a strong, excuse me, a strong host team helps. So yeah, I actually hope that they have a good structure now. They build onto this system. As we can see, New Zealand kept pulling away and Australia kept fighting back. But yeah, it was an interesting game. We look ahead to the final fixtures in the Rugby Championship. So Saturday morning at 11:45 South African time, Australia take on New Zealand, or they host New Zealand. Where in Australia will it be? We'll see in a moment. I think it's Sydney. No, it's Perth. Oh, I've got so much family in Perth. Um, and then at
Pretoria.
Perth, Victoria, very, very, very accurate. Um, uh, and then Argentina versus South Africa, Twickenham, as we said before, at 3 o'clock South African time.
You
All
have to be
right.
correct. It's Allianz Stadium, not Twickenham.
Last week we indicated that because Allianz isn't sponsoring this podcast, we are not going to mention them. We're actually under no obligation, so we can't call it the what's the actual like non-sponsor name of the Arsenal stadium? They've also got a separate name to that. I know the old one used to be Highbury, that type of thing. But all these companies are paying the South African stadiums. We will talk about the sponsor. We'll mention the sponsor so long as it's not gambling and or alcohol. It's fine. All right. Before we move on to the URC, if you're liking the podcast so far, please like and subscribe. What I wanted to say about the Rugby Championship before we move forward was it's a pity Thembinkosi is having technical problems because he's secretly from New Zealand. So his analysis is so good, it's suspicious. Please like and subscribe. Click the notification bell. Enjoy the podcast on the Global Gain Lines. It's us, a bit of an animal. It's the URC Rewind. It's I think the Wall Street Journal is taking a break right now because Congress is shut down, and obviously the Women's Rugby Trios. All right, they're also taking a break for a bit, so they'll be back in a few weeks' time. The URC first round. Ah, it's back. Is that a good thing for the Stormer supporters? Lisa B, your Stormers, which We did predictions, myself, Jean, and Temikusi last week. So we didn't think the Stormers were going to run away with the game. And the scoreline, it's a bit misleading. I watched this game. I really enjoyed it. I would have liked to have gone to watch it live, but there were different factors, including the fact that I wanted to watch the Sharks game immediately afterwards. And that would have been difficult if I had gone to the stadium and watched the Stormers game, because the Sharks game started like 5 minutes later. Why I wanted to watch the Sharks game, I'm starting to question my thought on that, considering how poorly the Sharks played. So Lisa B, the Stormers had a few injuries. They only lost 3 or 4 players to the Springbok team, but they put in a strong showing. Your thoughts on your team making the absolute best possible start to the season?
Oh, geez, I don't think anyone expected this. This was even in my wildest dreams, I did not expect this. And as you said, we are fortunate in a way that we don't have a lot of Springboks in our squad at the moment. So it really is only those 3, and Reinach, I mean, is coming this year. He's new back to the Stormers. So we are really actually only missing Damien Willemse and Sasha Feinberg-Mngomezulu. But that's, yeah, we are fortunate this year that we are also starting at home, which we haven't had in a while. And I don't know, there's something about Cape Town Stadium and the Stormers and the faithful that just inspires them, I guess. I did think it's not all the Stormers. We didn't play a great first half, to be honest. We did, I think, kind of break them down little by little. But Leinster, I mean, it's also not their full strength team. Their Lions are still not with them, but it's not by any means a weak team that came over. So I was very confused, especially with their attack just seemingly very disjointed and almost like they haven't had a preseason, which, knowing the Leinster setup, was very strange. I thought that Stefan Ungere had a very good game, and it's great to see also how he has, I think, gained a bit of confidence through the Currie Cup, and I'm expecting really nice things from him and Yuri Matia, actually. Both of them had very nice games. And then great to see Neetling back. And it was also interesting in the latter half of the game, and also towards the end, we did unfortunately give away quite a few scrum penalties with our new locks. I'm sorry, not locks. With our new Ollie. Oh, sorry, guys. Oliver. They call him Ollie, I think. He's new. Yeah, Oliver Reed, sorry. And Zachary Portland's coming in. I think they have potential, but they're obviously young. They're obviously getting used to the setup, but Ollie did have a good game. So yeah, yay. And yeah, nilling Leinster is just amazing.
Yeah, it was an interesting game because, like I said earlier, the scoreline doesn't actually reflect the game. The game was incredibly close at the start. Rudy Mathia took a bunch of long kicks. He got most of his kicks. He did miss a few as well. It just Leinster struggled to get going, but it was a mix of Stormers growing into the game. I really actually enjoyed the game. Yes, when Oliver Reed came on, Oliver Reed, who just recently won the Under-20 World Cup with the Baby Box, he played well. Zachary Porthen, I always get this pronunciation. Also, Lisa B, don't worry so much about not getting all the names exactly right. Even last season, when we were doing the URC rewind. I got Vernon Matongu's name. I mispronounced that, and I mispronounced another person's name. Someone got at me in the comments. You guys are gonna understand that we don't do this full time. It's basically an hobby. But yeah,
I do
as
try.
you, yeah,
That's
exactly.
all I'm going to say.
Yeah, we try exactly. Especially if it's more obscure players, we need to get to know them a bit more. So yeah, I was also impressed at how these guys did, and I'll reiterate what I said on the USC Rewind that both these Oaks, Oliver Reed and Zach, they struggled in the Currie Cup Premier Division against seasoned veterans in Griquas, Pumas, and Borland. Shouts to Borland who just announced signing two players. They got Kwanda Dimaza from the Pumas and Maritz from the Pumas. Kwanda Dimaza, I'm quite a big fan of because I watched him play youth rugby for the Sharks and then move on to the Pumas. So I digress. So yeah, and then towards the end of the game, um, I was hoping. Oh, I realized. Oh, Stormers have a chance now to null Leinster, and not just null them, deny them any away losing points. Oh, how often is this type of opportunity going to happen? So Leinster were uh, not even in sniffing point of getting losing bonus point for 4 tries or within 7 points. So you could do that, all those things to them, deny them either those bonus points and or a nil, and subject them to a donut. However, like I think there was like 8 minutes left, and the Stormers were attacking Leinster, and they were on the 22, and then the Stormers decided, oh yeah, you know what, we're going to make the game interesting. We're going to give away 4 penalties in a row, and just in 2 minutes time, we're going to end up on our 22, and Leinster were attacking. But unfortunately, Leinster fluffed that as well. The thing about Yuri Mattia is that super young, very similar to Kyle Smith. Kyle Smith is behind Mattia, is basically on a similar trajectory. He just played for the Baby Box a season ago. So it's interesting to see how this 24-year-old kid has been, in my view, very well managed by the Stormers management and coaching staff. He's not been rushed. He's playing across from 22-year-old Sam Pendergrass, who's played Test rugby before. So it speaks to the different systems we have across South Africa and Ireland. Any other thoughts now? Jean, do you have any thoughts about what went down here in the West Coast?
Obviously super excited for Leinster after that. I can't imagine Jacques Nienaber um, being a fun person to be around immediately post match. Yeah, no, look, I think the s- the intent was clear from the Stormers, and yeah, just to Lisa B's point with the young props on the bench. I heard a professional rugby player say most most professional players will acclimatize to their position and the roles and responsibilities at the top level within about a year to 2 years, and then he said with the front row it can take up to 5 to 8 years to get. So imagine these guys being like 20, 21. They'll hit their peak at 28, 29, just because of the intensity of how difficult it is to scrum, the dark arts that's going in there, the pulling, the shoving, the balance. And I actually I spoke to a physiotherapist who used to work at the Bulls, and she was manhandling me once when I had an injury, and she said people would not believe you if you told them that the amount of flexibility that has to go into being a prop, because if that scrum collapses, you are doing this, and your neck has to be able to handle it, your shoulders, your back, your lower back, your knees, your hamstrings. It's a lot of flexibility that goes in. There's a lot of isometric strength training and things like that. So I think give these guys towards the end of the season, you might see them become a bit more solid in terms of their scrumming performance. But no, very well done to the Stormers. And I think the tens who played the weekend for the Stormers, and don't want to get ahead, but for the Bulls as well, really did well. They handled their task well, and they played really well. They played what was in front of them. Coming away with good wins.
Yeah. Having watched the game and looked at the team sheet ahead of time, I thought that Reed and Pawson would struggle, and they didn't get. They had a worse time in the Currie Cup. Seriously. So it's almost like they took their beating in the Currie Cup and they matured a little. And considering that they actually came on and they actually went up against the Leinster starting front row initially, and then Leinster were the ones who swapped their players out after the Stormers. They weren't a walking penalty giveaway system like Rowan Dreyer, unfortunately, for the Sharks, who started the game. And I will say that looking back, I went through the teams that Leinster sent to South Africa over the last 4 seasons. This is quite possibly the strongest team they've actually put out. Yes, they're missing a lot of guys who played for the Lions, and they did have a lot of people play for the Lions, and they have injuries. However, this team has a lot of Test rugby experience, not only including more recently when Ireland went on tour while the Lions tour was kind of starting, because that's what happened in the Northern Hemisphere. Scotland, Ireland, so on and so forth. They actually did go on tours, like France went to New Zealand, which was a very interesting tour. I'm still with them in Nkosi, really enjoyed it. But then those guys got a proper rest and they could actually go into URC preseason with teams like Leinster and Ulster, so on and so forth. Whereas the Lions tour was so long, those guys got given more time off, because obviously after the Lions tour, they're getting hammered and it's just a standard fare. So Leinster, solid team they put out. So they can't sort of point to the fact that they even have Harry Burns on the bench, so they can't point to the fact that they were like short-handed and that's why they lost. But I actually think they're going to bounce back quite strongly next round. We'll have to see. We move on swiftly to the Sharks game. Unfortunately. So the Sharks took on the Glasgow Warriors, and we fell way short. We were not at the races. We had some flashes of decent play here and there. However, missing 28 players in total, 9 to the Springbok team. Hopefully, we'll get Makazola Mampipi back for the game against Leinster in Ireland, considering that he is in England right now with the Springbok team, but not on the team sheet. He's just a backup. So unlikely to get Grant Williams. As a game of rugby, I did enjoy it. Obviously, as a Sharks supporter, it wasn't that great seeing your team get completely sort of outplayed. But yeah, the takeaways from me are that Glasgow weren't necessarily full strength either. They were a bit better prepared. They understand the conditions, and on the 4G pitch, it's a synthetic pitch, not a natural grass pitch. Great atmosphere there. Sharks were in it in points, but then not so much. Jaden Hendricks started at fly off. He did okay. I'm a bit disappointed with his performances over the last 2 seasons. Maybe it's time for him to also do the Kobus Reinach tour of go overseas and sort of learn different skills and experience different cultures and come back even better player. Edwin van der Merwe put in a good shift. Glad to have him in the team. Yeah, the standout notes. Yeah, I was disappointed in Rowan Dreyer. He doesn't play that often for the Sharks, having joined us from the Lions, but he tends to struggle. Dion Slabbert joined us from the Pumas. He put in like a workman performance. We had a very good loose forward trio, all highly sought after talented players. Their strengths tend to overlap a bit. We might have needed a slightly different player. Coming into the game, however, Lorenzo Julius was on the bench. He was on the team sheet for the bench. However, he caught an injury before the game, so Tino Mavasere took his place, which is sort of a outside center replaced by a flanker. So that obviously affected our preparation. Lorenzo Julius, who I'm not sure what injury he had, but towards the end of last season, he didn't play much. He might have had an injury, and now he pulled up before the game, so that's not ideal. Jordan Julius did say in one of the Sharks PR videos on their Facebook page, on their YouTube page, I should say, um, they asked him a bunch of questions, and he said that his favorite rapper is Drake. So if that's not a sign of concussion, I don't know what is. Jean, your thoughts on the Sharks losing to Glasgow?
After those shots being fired, I don't think I need to do anything else. Yeah, pretty. Look, it's a pretty tough game playing the current, no, not the current champs, the previous champs at home. Um, Glasgow obviously being a very physical team, they're not scared to mix it up and they're well coached. I think the Sharks are, I mean, as we spoke, they're a bit undercooked at this point, and we'll see if Stonehouse has the impact that we all want him to have, and get some grit going. But yeah, as far as the beginning of the season loss goes, not throwing out the baby with the bathwater just yet. Room for improvement, obviously. I think for Jaden Hendrickse, he can do a job at 10, but I think 15 comes more naturally um, to him. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I would rather I try and put him in the position where he shines out the most. And it's difficult because the Sharks actually have a pretty big pool of people to pull from. So, person wonders where's some of the backup tens? Why weren't they given a go? Because sometimes an out and out player is better than experienced make do. If you get what I'm saying. So yeah, sorry for you, unfortunately, that your team lost. Squeezed in there between these two majestic winners on screen. But yeah, I wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater early days into the season. So let's see what develops.
Yeah, I'm really sad Timmy Coach is not here because these Lions also went on tour and they also lost. So now it's just me with you guys who had fantastic weeks. Hakeem Kunene came on for a short space of time. I think he was only on for 5 minutes, so you can't really rate that. Jean Smith, the younger brother of Franco Smith Jr., who's now at the Cheetahs. So he played. This is the first time he played against a team. He's in the professional level anyway. That his dad is coaching. I think Franco Smith is absolutely a fantastic coach. So I think what will happen with him is that he'll stick around Glasgow 2 more seasons. Then he will take over from the current Scottish coaching system, and I think they're going to give him a 4-year cycle towards the World Cup. So yeah, and obviously I'd like to Bato Klokane and Nick Hatton struggled a little, young guys in these conditions to really affect the game coming on off the bench, but still very good players. Lee Marvin Mazibuko and Dean Breuler played a bit better than what they did necessarily more recently, and in the Currie Cup, Lee Marvin Mazibuko struggled a little, but he put in a good shift there. Eddie Swart, interesting enough, we got him from the Pumas, but he actually did have a spell with the Scarlets. He's played 4 games with the Scarlets. I forgot to mention that on the URC rewind. So now he's actually full time with us. He's not on loan from the Pumas. All right, we move swiftly on to the next game in the South African teams played. Oh, Jean, you're gonna enjoy this. Um, your Bulls e- enjoying the first tenure, the first steps into the tenure of Johan Ackerman, and they're playing Johan Ackerman rugby, Jean. Um, if you go to Loftus this season, you're going to get your money's worth. Uh, you probably win just as many games, but you probably score a lot more tries as well. Your thoughts, John?
Yeah, so clearly, like you said, Johan Ackerman's presence and style being clear from the get-go. You can see the sweeping attack, the nice touches, soft touches by the forwards. Um, and then I think the first half, the Bulls found themselves being a little bit unsure as to what exactly was, you know, almost like what happened with the Springboks in the first couple of games against England under Rassie. and then you sort of like, you're not sure, your positioning's a little off. Is this my job? Isn't it my job? Oh wait, it was my job. So a couple of soft tries in the beginning. But I think once the attack got going from there on out, it was a pretty good game. I certainly enjoyed it. Um, and definitely a game of two halves. Um, the first half, the Ospreys really did dominate. Um, and we were sort of like counterpunching when we got the opportunity. And the second half, we really got into our stride, and they were trying to counterpunch where they had the opportunity. So yeah, I'm happy so far. I'm not going to be bothered too much now about the things. I will be very excited to see Cameron Hanekom, Elrich Louw come back into the team, and definitely see what the team looks like with Handré Pollard at 10, Kainan Moody at 13 or at wing. But yeah, very, very happy with the performance. I think the team definitely started to resemble what their potential is. Um, so yeah, very, very happy. Nervy first half, but I think overall a good performance. And yeah, Vali Leroux just putting the soft touches, on the ball there, despite being in Durban, I think, up until Friday afternoon.
Interesting game. JJ Theron played a lot of games at lock and then for the baby box and then at blindside flag in the Currie Cup. It was shifted to 8 for this game, which calls into what Ackerman said in the press conference leading up to the game, that there will be some surprises in the team sheet. Nice to see Philo Gomede back in the system. Very good, very talented, very tall line out and blindside flanker. Has been in the broader Springbok squad from time to time. And obviously Marcel Kutsia leading from the front. Lisa B, are you as happy for Jean as I am not?
I'm sorry, I can't be happy for the Bulls, but I am happy for some of their players. Chasewell Eustace specifically. Um, I he was so good at the under 20s, and seeing him actually, the one thing I will say with Ackerman and players like I've mentioned it before, Moody, and players like Chasewell Eustace, Cape players going to play up there, I'm much more comfortable with how they will develop under Ackerman. Um, so yeah, I'm looking at him specifically very closely, and I'm really enjoying seeing his game develop, because I also think he has a really high ceiling. And then yeah, I'm not gonna lie, Ospreys is my favorite Welsh team, so I was kind of happy to see them doing so well. It's nice to see any Welsh team doing well, and they had some really nice attacks that I enjoyed. And just one thing, I did not catch this game live, and I have an issue with URC TV. I don't know if you're aware, but I definitely for the last 2 seasons, you could, or South Africans could, catch all the games live on the internet. Well, not live, delayed on URC TV. And the point is here, I don't know about you guys, I can't watch 8 rugby games every weekend. It's impossible, and with the books and everything else. And so what I used to do is then throughout the week, I would obviously catch the most important games on the weekend, but throughout the week I would dip back in and watch the other teams. And also it was nice because you could kind of skip ahead, scrum resets and whatever. So the time investment was a bit less. Now it's not available at all. On URC TV in South Africa, you can't even watch the highlights. Um, they have a package that they put together of like, all the games in 60 minutes. And I think that's really poor. I understand TV deals and whatnot, but even making the games available on the Monday, just for people like me who would like to keep up with the other teams, but we all do have lives outside of sitting on our couch and watching rugby. So I think that's a bit silly. I know they have very good packagings overseas now, very well priced, but I have to say, I'm also SuperSport, yes, do reruns, but you have to sit in front of the TV at a certain time, and that just doesn't work either. So I think that's a bit silly, and I'm disappointed. Bad URC.
Yeah, good consumer feedback there, Lisa B. We actually appreciate that type of feedback. As it relates to the game, though, the last point I'll make is that we did a shirt rating podcast on the URC Rewind, and then we did rate the Ospreys shirt, but it didn't have the sponsor on it yet. So, and it was on a human being, so it actually does look quite nice with actual people wearing it and that type of thing, and with the sponsor on it. So Adam is right about that. You mentioned about our lives outside of rugby podcasting and watching rugby. That is very true. All of us are very busy, except for if you watch the what's the rugby? Interpro show, the Irish podcast on this Global Game Lines YouTube channel. It's very clear. Kaylin often mentions that Adam is the only one with a social life. So, but on this podcast, we all have one. So, unfortunately, that's true of Adam. Naba on the bench, came off, played well. Back to the rugby. Did really well in the Currie Cup until everybody got the flu. Interesting to see Paul de Wet, who for 2 seasons was rumored to be leaving for the Bulls, and he actually did. So Bulls have a lot of good scrum half depth there.
Shout
Ospreys.
out to Nicolaas Jansen van Rensburg as well, who put in a solid shift. Solid
Yeah,
first shift at the Bulls.
exactly. Um, Interesting how good he is in the backline and as a lock with his hands and stuff like that. So I don't know if he would used to be able to do that, because remember he's from the Bulls, and then he went to Montpellier, and he was in France for like 3 seasons, so he's come back quite strong. And like I mentioned on the URC Rewind, he was in the Springbok broader training camp last season when there was a raft of injuries. He was brought in. He didn't play anything, but he was in the team, so at least he's sort of on the fringes of the team. Um, Daniel Kasende, formerly of the Cheetahs, very good player. Shout out to him as well. Well done to the Bulls. Now, unfortunately, we have to move on to the Lions, who, like the Sharks, went on tour and got their butts handed to them to an extent. To an extent. Then, because he's going to send us a mean text in a moment now. All right. Lions went to Cardiff, first game of the tour. They looked a bit flat. Cardiff looked the better team until Cardiff got the red card. So it was a 20-minute red card, and then the Lions came back into the game. Interesting to see that because Lions have a few interesting and talented options at fly off. However, Chris Smith is injured, and generally it seemed anyway from the Currie Cup that Lulabala Dubela was his substitute or understudy going into the season. They have also got Cade Voliter, but I think he's also injured. And then they've got Gio Lombard, who can also play like Cade Voliter. He can play at fullback as well. So despite the Lions losing, I think Dubela put in a good shift. Nico Steyn was solid. Heko van Wyk, I expected a little more from him. He's a very good player on the outside center. I guess he tried his best. Corn Horn, again, always a couple of good moments here and there. In general, the Lions actually have a solid squad. Ruan Delport put the Currie Cup behind him. I'm glad he played the whole game, by the way. So that's a reflection of the coaching staff backing him despite a sort of a mishap in the Currie Cup final. This is basically the team who, then you had to play the Currie Cup final on Saturday, got onto a plane, and then had to play away in Europe, which is very similar to what happened to the Sharks exactly a year ago. Got onto a plane, had to play Connacht and Galway, not the best conditions. Um, Jean, your thoughts on your fellow Gauteng team falling short in Wales?
Yeah, as you said, Wales, tough place to play, and hard people, not scared of playing a physical game. Um, I do wonder. We've seen in the past what happens, if the Lions aren't well organized, and I wonder if they're not clinging on by reputation more than anything else. They've got talent to burn, right? They've got talent to burn. The question is, um, when are they going to start getting a coach there that's going to put that talent to good use? So yeah, I think definitely. Like I was shocked this afternoon. I saw a quote from their defensive coach, and I was like, I didn't know you guys have a defensive coach. Because your defensive structure at times looks to me like if you can tackle him, great. If you can't, oh well. So
Mm.
and I'm sitting here. I wouldn't be able to do that job for more than a couple of hours without getting punched in the face. But yeah, I think the Lions as a union need to decide whether or not they're in this for a team that was competing for the Challenge Cup in our first season and second season. Um, yeah, I really think there needs to be some organization and structure there. And I mean, we saw locks flying, economy class, and such. I know that the travel should be better this year, but you can't help but wonder, what was the travel like? How long before did they arrive? Was there time to adjust to the weather, to the time zones, to those things? I mean, we know from the past experience, it hasn't always been smooth running on the off-field side. So yeah, I really feel for the Lions fans. I feel for the players. And I think, Lions management needs to see where they can make it smoother. If you're going to go up there and you're going to do the tour of the valleys or the highlands or the Pastafarian people, then you need to have your ducks in a row beforehand. And we are notoriously bad touring teams. We struggle to tour at this stage, whereas the teams we are playing they're accustomed to us. Okay, it's obviously lovely coming here into the sunshine, and lack of people. You get to taste brandy and biltong. Obviously, we are the epitome of rugby here on the southern tip of Africa. But yeah, I just think it's something that South African teams in general need to start focusing on. Get the right mentality of a tour and go out there and make a statement. That's what it should be, is to say, I'm going to come to your house and I'm going to beat you in your own house.
Yeah. I was expecting a bit more from the Lions. There's a lot of factors to this. What I noticed is that the Sharks, who didn't make the Currie Cup knockout stages, they instead scheduled preseason games against the Stormers in George, so on and so forth. And I spoke to some of the Sharks players just to confirm what day they were actually leaving, and they seemingly purposefully, because they didn't make the Currie Cup knockout stages, they had a 2 week or a 3 week buffer, depending on if you count the match week. So I thought, are they maybe going to go through a little early to adjust to the conditions? But some of the, not just coaching staff, but management in general, within professional sports and rugby in particular, are now sort of more edging towards teams flying over later, sort of like staying within your province, your coaching, coaching, but your where your training facility, and sort of leaving. The idea used to be maybe if you left early, you would adjust the conditions and better. But now sports science seems to be shifting the other way. It's saying have the players sleep in their own beds for as long as possible, and then fly them over at sort of a closer period to the game. I'll actually speak to some of the players. I haven't actually to find out uh, how are things different in terms of the actual plane journey these days? Because as we know, for the last 4 seasons, they were really flying economy, and these are really big oaks, especially the locks and the props and that type of thing. So that's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for normal, just normal public people to fly economy. So yeah, with the Lions, if you look at the team sheet, it looks really good. This is not. Yes, they've got injuries, and yes, they lost the scrum half. He's in the Springbok team, but I expected more from them, especially their bench was quite strong. Interestingly enough, Hashim Pete and Sam Francis did not play at all. So they were on the bench, and Hashimpi, just like in the Currie Cup, he didn't get off the bench. So that's interesting decision making somewhat. I know I do rate Nico Steyn. I know people were slagging him off in the comments in last year's URC Rewind. But I don't think he's a bad player, but I still would have brought Pete on at some point because he is that good. Yeah, I think we're running out of time, so we have to move on swiftly to previewing next week's round of fixtures relating to South African teams in the United Rugby Championship. Lisa B, your team, Stormers. We've got the team sheet. We don't have the team sheet for the Ospreys. Same venue, same time, Friday after work. Last week, you got 13,500 people into the lower bowl of the stadium. It didn't look like that many people on screen. Maybe people showed up late, but we have to understand that it's a 54,000 seater stadium, and the lower bowl is approximately 22,000 people. So again, the Stormers, big stadium, got the most spectators for the whole URC of all 8 games of any of the teams hosting games at home. You think you're gonna null Ospreys as well this week?
At this point, anything's possible. Look, I think, yeah, and it's going to be very interesting seeing how, with Osprey's attack meeting our attack. I'm actually really interested to see that. I also had a quick squiz at the team, or I have it in front of me now, and it seems like pretty much the same. Oh, Ali Vermaak is back, and Sazi Sandi on the bench. So that's, yeah. So our new props won't be there. I think you rightly said it might look on TV like there's not a lot of people, but I can tell you from experience, it is actually a really awesome vibe being there, even if it's just the lower section being opened. And it's Cape Town Rugby. It's an awesome atmosphere. I would highly recommend, if anybody can get there, to get there, because the stadium is beautiful, and I think for the game itself, we should be able to get this one. And also, if we compare to other seasons, we have been maybe a bit guilty of being a bit passive, especially at the beginning of seasons. And I think we have to build on what we did against Leinster last week. We have to get our home games, have to be solid. As you said, South Africans don't travel well. So we really have to build that up if we have any hope of, making it to the knockout rounds this year.
Yeah, that's why I really enjoy when we record on Thursday evenings, because we actually get to see some of the team sheets, especially for the Friday games, and you can do a bit more than just sort of like pick who's going to win or by how many points and that thing. You get a bit more insight into seeing that the Stormers have rotated out their young, promising props, and they've brought in veterans like Ali Vermaak. This guy's got so much Super Rugby experience. He played somewhat less in the URC since we shifted to the URC, but still a valuable player. Sansi Sandi is come along, and like Vernon Matongo, matured a lot. Props do need a degree of maturity. So those are actually the only. I think Ben Jason Dixon might have started last week. Yeah, he did. But now he's on the bench. Very good player. Last week, Johan Ackerman's son, Rowan Ackerman, was on the bench. He played well. A bit of a weird sound here at the back by me. Yeah, I think Stormers will win this game as well. I'm picking Stormers. John, who do you got?
Yeah, I'll go Stormers by 10 on this one. That's my Super Brew pick. Um, yeah, look, anything can happen. I think it will be interesting to see if the loose forward combo for the Stormers can keep up with a team who showed last week that they're not scared of getting physical. Punching up the Bulls in the first half is not something to squint at. So yeah, but I'm backing the Stormers of a margin of 10.
Yeah, and this is a good squad. Clinton Swartz over on loan from the Pumas. Solid player, plays often inside center. Used to play inside center for the Cheetahs. I didn't get to mention this earlier, but Subela Senatla was man of the match and deservedly so last week, Friday's game. He had an excellent game. Wandisime Simelane doesn't often play at fullback, often plays very, very well at outside center. He had a solid game at so it's nice to see him again because Galant has got a bit of an injury. So yeah, continuity for the Stormers. The whole panel picks them to win. The next game is, from South African perspective, is Sharks versus Dragons in Wales. Dragons home kit. We get to see Dragons home kit, which looks like the Wolverhampton Wanderers home kit. Sharks have also named their team and they've made some changes. Lorenzo Julius is starting at outside center. Lucanio Am, who can play inside center, doesn't play often in inside center, but is very skilled. Not having the best of season last season, and he looked a bit rusty last week despite scoring. But yeah, we hope he puts in a good shift. I was hoping Edel van der Merwe would move to fullback so we could make space for PK Sobatle, who returned to the Sharks more recently from the Pumas, had a very, very good Currie Cup season, 2 player of the match performances. Christy Grobler, big guy, very fast, very physical, still adjusting to 15-man rugby because he's more of a sevens player more recently. Jaden Hendricks shifting back to scrum half. I'm expecting a bit more from him. Hopefully he sort of manages the game quite well. Talented player. We just have high hopes for everybody. Jean Smith, son of Franco Smith, starting his first URC game. The coaching staff rate him very well. Very young player, former baby box. So we'll see how he goes as well. It's the same loose forward trio. Excellent players, but concerned that maybe they overlap in terms of ability and that type of thing. Vincent Tuka labeled Vincent can also shift to lock if we need him. Mervyn Ori played really well for the Bulls in the Currie Cup. Is now with us. Put in a solid shift last week. The front row again, Rowan Dreyer, Faisal Bata, very good player. A recent recruit from the Bulls. Matanzima, he had a solid game last week. On the bench, we've got Cameron Dawson on loan from the Cheetahs and Currie Cup winning captain, Sebo Dlamini, would have been on tour with us sooner if he wasn't celebrating winning the Currie Cup in incredible fashion. The rest of the bench is pretty much the same. Francois Venter, who started at inside center last week, shifts to the bench. So I'm thinking Sharks by a small margin. But the Dragons are a solid team, so I'm hoping we actually get away here with. I'll take 4 points, but maybe 5. I'm sure Jean's going to pick the Welsh team now.
No, I actually backed the Sharks, but only with 5.
That's what you pick up, Super Brew. And Lisa B, you going with the fishies or the Welsh people?
Let's go with the fishies. Look, they should. It would be really good for them if they could sort out the things that went wrong last week. And you know, if you can't sort that stuff out against the Dragons, then I would be worried if I were you, Mohammed.
Yeah. Shout out to Ross Prudia, good game starting last week, so hopefully he makes a good impact off the bench. Just don't take a quick tap and turn the ball over. All right, then later on Saturday, so the Sharks game, the Stormers game kicks off at 7, don't miss that, and then the Sharks game again kicks off at 9, same as last week. So fun Friday back-to-back. I can enjoy the rest of the weekend. All right, so where are the Lions? Oh, the Lions are on Sunday. My bad. That's why I missed it. Okay. Bulls versus Leinster. We do not have a team sheet. I'm going Bulls by 5. Jean, who you got?
I went Bulls by 10.
Nice. Lisa B?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Leinster. I think Leinster are gonna come back with a vengeance. They they're in a very similar situation to what I think the Sharks are in, except of course they've got a bit of a stronger team. But
yeah,
I'm going Leinster. Sorry, Jean.
Bit of a stronger team, much stronger team. And then on Sunday at 4 o'clock kickoff, a rare Sunday game. The Lions have the honor of touring Italy. Wouldn't we all like to do that? They take on Zebre Parma, who had a great start to the season last week. I'm going to try and be patriotic here, and I think yeah, I'm gonna pick the Lions out of patriotism and Lions by 3. Lisa B.
I'm gonna go Lions in hope, but it's 50-50 for me. Zebra are looking very good.
John.
I went Lions by 5. I think they should be able to get that done. Yeah, I don't know. Zebra are a team who they can give you a good match on the day, but I think it's still too early in the season for them to have started peaking already.
Yeah, both teams like to attack, so whatever happens to the game, we are going to see a fun game of rugby. All right, the last topic of this week, and arguably the most exciting one, Canada women, or I should say England, successful in winning the Rugby World Cup on home soil. The commanding performance. Canada, very much the fairy tale season for them. Full team of non-professional players. I don't like to say the word amateur. They're far from amateurish. England, a fully professionalized team, solid a league where the English players, especially if you're playing in the English national team, get paid reasonably well. But as we've heard from the women's rugby trio, still don't get paid a ton. Lisa B, we didn't have a South African team in this game, but I'm sure you, like me, took a lot of value from the fixture itself.
Yeah, look, I'm a bit disappointed that Canada didn't win. I'm not a big Canada fan, but of course, I think everyone except the English were backing Canada just as the underdog, and because, like you said, just the way that they, got to the World Cup, having to fundraise and really just the quality of their team. It's unfortunate that they did kind of peter out a little bit, and I almost felt as if, like you said, they're not amateurs in that way, but uh, that big match temperament is maybe just something in a World Cup final against a very strong England, which, let's face it, did to Canada what Canada had been doing to everyone else. England did shut them down really well. They deprived them of the ball, and without the ball, Canada couldn't play that brilliant offloading game that they have been. So I don't know if I can say congratulations, England. It's yo. But what I can say is that it shows us the level that England are able to play at, shows how investment in the women's game, it's not necessarily a short-term investment, it is a longer term, but it's well worth it. And I hope that the unions around the world will take away from this World Cup that it is worthwhile. People do want to watch it, and it can be an incredibly fun product. And yeah, England have shown that. So kudos to them. Kudos for running a really good World Cup, organization-wise, and doing a really good job at promoting the women's game. So yeah.
Yeah, I would absolutely love it if we hosted the Women's Rugby World Cup here. It seems like very exciting rugby, and we have the infrastructure for it. Jean, were you able to catch the game?
No, unfortunately not. Being in the bushveld, watching pixelated Springboks take on the Pumas prevented that. And I was hoping to get to it, but as you said earlier, Elizabeth, watching every single rugby game is impossible at times. So yeah, unfortunately, I caught some glimpses on social media. absolutely stoked for England. I'm glad that the Northern Hemisphere has won a Rugby World Cup um, in the year of our Lord 2025. So this vindicates England being, a sporting nation of some sort. Gutted for Canada. And I think I'm going to echo the sentiments of what a lot of people out there are saying. This was a record World Cup for women's rugby. And if we want that to not go to waste, then please, please, please invest. There's going to be a period of time where you're not going to get the money back, where you're going to be investing in something that is not actively growing. It's going to take time and effort. Um, but please do invest because we need this sport to grow. It is so wonderful seeing women. Being a father of a little girl myself, I saw a video of a little girl and her dad watching England play, and that warms your heart. It gives you all the fuzzy emotions. So, thinking of that and thinking, wow, in 2, 3 years' time, I can show her the women's Springboks playing at a World Cup, and she'll be just as excited for them as she is for the real not the real Springboks, the men's team, sorry. But yeah, understand it. Please put the money behind it. Give it chance. The business part we can take off late. We can take care of later. For now, just invest in people's dreams, and I'm sure the fruits of it will be there for all of us to bear.
Yeah, I think to Lisa B's point earlier, Tim Nkosi made it clear last week that we're not allowed to root for England. He was very adamant about that. But yeah, well done, England. Canada were obviously the underdogs. I didn't get a chance to see Abby Dow's brother, what he dressed up as, because he obviously dresses up as something to do with the opposition in every game, just as banter to get at his sister. You also have to note that New Zealand won the third, fourth place playoff, the player for bronze. Well done to them. And as we can see on the screen here, Canada, the last prior two World Cups, sorry, not my Canada, England in the last prior two World Cups, which were hosted in Ireland and New Zealand respectively. England lost to New Zealand. So well done to them. They actually uh, and they went into both these World Cups as favorites, as number one teams rated. The last time they actually won a Women's World Cup, they actually also defeated Canada, it seems. I was not following at that time, but yeah, England, next World Cup is Australia, and then after that's the United States. So hopefully we can get a chance to host it after that. I really enjoyed this tournament. I think it grew the game of rugby and the women's game in particular quite well. Yeah, that brings us to the end of a bumper show of I think it's our most controversial show thus far. Interesting to see what the comments say. And if you did make it to the end, uh, let us know by commenting down below. Sasha for president. For myself, Jean and Lisa B, until next week, in Rassi, we trust.